I'm Rick.
I'm Ted.
Coming at you from Seagus Marine. Ted, what are we doing today, buddy?
Today we're going to talk about sailing stories here.
Go. Yes. We good? We good? We good.
Ready?
Yes.
Today we're going to...
Blinded
guys,
by the
exactly.
light, hung up like a douche in the middle of the night.
So we have...
Let us break out the cue cards.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining into this episode. Today we're going to be talking about sailing stories. I'm going to start out with my first sailing story. And I never really learned how to sail. People go, did you take lessons or whatever? I was just exposed to it for a long, long time. And I remember my parents got a sailboat and then we were supposed to go out with them. Went out with them a couple times. As I got a little bit older, we went to this beautiful, beautiful summer camp up on a lake in New Hampshire. It's like a little sand beach in front of this lake house. And you walk down, there was some canoes. And I think there was a kayak, but we didn't know how to kayak and we were worried about getting flipped over. But there was also this like beach cat. And now that I know about sailboats, it was an aqua cat with like a triangular bar and like the laid back Lantine rig. And basically not aqua cat owners, no offense, not really the greatest sailing rig ever. But we got out on that and we started sailing around the lake and we're doing fun. And me and my brother are having a good old time. And all of a sudden we see this other sailboat. And if you see another sailboat out there, that's a race. So we're racing these guys. And it was a much bigger, probably like a 19-foot Flying Scot, something to that effect. And so they were much faster than us, even though we were on a catamaran. We were able to kind of keep up. And then all of a sudden they get close and they're like stealing our wind and yelling at us and making fun of us. So as a 12-year-old skipper with my 9-year-old brother, what do I do but what any little kid would do? I've got a boat with two pointy ends on it, and these older kids are picking on me. So I got a little distance away from them, turned the boat to them, and rammed them broadside. Bang! And they look down and they're like, oh my God, you guys hit us. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you cracked our boat. We're going to go get the power boat, come out and run you guys down. And I looked at my brother. I'm like, we got to get back home quick. And we weren't going home, obviously, but we're going back to the beach. And I have no idea how we got there. I can tell you I never had to talk to the lake police and our parents didn't say a word to us. So apparently we got there quickly before anything happened. Anyhow. So that's my first real memory of sailing and anything that's memorable that went on with sailing. Rick, I'm sure, you didn't start till you were 22, right?
Yeah, I was about 22 when I got started sailing. The company I was working for was sending me down probably for about a year to Miami to get a new shop opened up. And went down there to do that. One of the people that was involved with that shop, he lived in the Orlando area. Well, actually lived in Winter Park. Well, we took the Aruba on the weekends. We'd go over to the islands, hit Bimini, hit Grand Bahama, to the casinos. So one weekend we went up to Lake Apopka.
Where the heck is Lake Apopka?
In Central Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, Central Florida. It's up around, it's about 50 miles from Winter Park, actually, but it's up there in that area. And they happen to have wooden sailfish in those days. Not even fiberglass, had the wooden sailfish. So I said, yeah, I'll try anything, but I've never sailed one. He says, oh, it's easy. He says, let the sail out till it flaps. When it flaps, pull it in till it don't, you're sailing. That's how I got started sailing.
Wait a minute, I have a question. Did he tell you what to do when you pulled the sail in too tight and the boat flipped over?
Well, no. Don't let that happen. He did say if you pull it too tight, you're going to be in the water. I didn't know what was in the water. You know, we're in alligator country, so
Yeah.
I figured.
Oh, so you didn't flip it at all?
No, I never flipped it. No. I hung loose. Yeah, I didn't want to go feeding no alligators because we used to go up to what they call Blood Alley in Fort Lauderdale. It's Highway 27. And they had a big circle that was loaded with bass where we'd go bass fishing. And you'd rent their boats, you know. And I mean, alligators were there in the droves looking for handouts, looking for you to feed them, you know. But that's not a sailing story. But yeah, that's how I got started, you know. Then from there, I went on to bigger and better things. But that's another story.
So, Rick, yeah, that's awesome. You know, it sounds like we both had, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, like starting out sailing stories.
It was like that. But then after you got past your beginning stage, I started to get a little hang on it. How did you, you know, advance in your sailing?
So I got out of college and, you know, I was decent in college. And then I got out to Colorado and there were a lot bigger boats. And one of my roommates, actually, his buddy worked at the Tiki Bar, which was where the sailboats, the Tiki Bar ran the sailboat rental too, which we won't go from a liability standpoint, but that doesn't sound like the best of ideas. But anyhow, so we went and we're sitting there at the Tiki Bar with my roommate, and his buddy comes out and goes, "Hey, Ted, do you want to take the Pearson ensign?" He said, "Hey, Ted, do you want to take the ensign out?" Which is a 22-foot Pearson ensign for those of you writing down at home. But it's a nice old classic. I'm not sure that it's a John Allberg design, but kind of like that. Beautiful full keel sailboat. It's got teak benches. They're like 8 feet long. Just a little teeny cuddy cabin. You barely sleep in there. There's 2 berths in there. There's no portalette on it. Whatever.
Right.
But pretty boat with a great big sail plan. And my buddy's like, "Yeah, you think you can take that out?" And I'm like, you know, sitting there going, "Well, I've had a few drinks, so, but if you say no now, you're not going to get offered too many other boats in the future."
Right.
So I'm like, "Yeah, I got that." So,
right.
So he's like, "Yeah, it's down there on the end." And I'm like, "Okay." And I get down there and a quick look before we all get on. I'm like, "Ooh, it's got an outboard motor. Check. I know how to run one of those." I'm like, "Main and jib. Check. We're all set." I go down. Luckily, we had outboards growing up, so I knew how to start an outboard. Got the outboard started. We got all the lines off. I had about 3 or 4 buddies with me. Get all the lines off, and a couple of them had sailed before and said they had sailing experience. So I'm like, "Okay, we'll be fine." So we get out on a lake, and I'm like, "Okay, let's get the sails up." And so I was obviously in the back of the boat steering and driving the motor. And one other buddy with me, I'm like kind of telling him how to get the mainsail up, and we get that up. And my other 2 buddies raise up the jib on the front of the boat. But I look up, and you know how a jib's supposed to look like a triangle?
Right.
Well, this was a triangle like that.
And hung like, upside down.
I think we got a problem. And so just because I realized that they had hung the jib upside down, I was now like, "Captain Teddy, oh my gosh, Teddy knows what he's doing." So we sailed around that night, and I, you know, got it back in. It got into the wee hours of the night, so I don't really, that part's kind of fuzzy. But we docked it fine, put everything up. I came back and checked with the Marina. Everything was good. And that was great. And that was really when I realized that, okay, I know how to do more than just make the boat go left or right and maybe to get to where I want to where I could actually kind of command a boat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Rick, I mean, along your sailing journey, yours is way longer than mine. I'm sure you've had a couple moments like that, right?
Well, yeah, quite a few. Well, the way I progressed, actually, they had a place down in Fort Lauderdale on New River that would rent you. They had, I believe, there were 18-foot Lightnings, and they're fast, nice boat. I mean,
Lightnings are,
they were pretty quick. So, a group of us went down, and we would rent them and go out sailing on it, and I started picking up, and then when finally I wound up in Miami a little over a year, and I come back in April, and the following January they have the boat show at the Coliseum. Well, Then I bought a 22-foot Catalina pop top on a trailer, had 7.5 horsepower. Evan Drew Yachtsman got the generator, light up your light.
The classic Catalina 22 pop top.
Right.
They've come back, and the guy that designed it lives in Fort Walton, but they're actually getting a race class going out here, and it'll actually even happen during the Jubilee Regatta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I built a 25 too, so that
a few pop tops. Yeah. That's my favorite boat, but we'll stick to the story.
Yeah. So then I started progressing and sailing a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Then after the pop top, I went to a 27 Coronado.
Nice. Okay.
Well, yeah, that was a nice, high, dry, good sailing boat,
Mm-hmm.
Also, I started crewing on 37-foot Erickson that was racing. So I learned, I learned a lot more, and that was it until I started my cruising adventures, which is yet another story.
Well, what was your first cruising adventure?
Well, my first cruising adventure actually was with the 27 Coronado. We was in the World's Fair Marina in Flushing, New York. So what you do, you got to come down the East River, go through Hellgate, then you come down in by the Statue of Liberty and all of that stuff. Well, we ran the ocean buoys, which is the commercial ocean buoys. We stayed inside of them about, I don't know, a half a mile, quarter mile, whatever. We stayed away from the shipping channel, But we used them as a guide, and we went down to Cape May. So that was our first, this is a cruise, man. We're doing this, right? So, that was the first adventure. And we sailed most of the way back down. We boated most of the way back.
Yeah, so on the way down, you guys must have stopped a lot of places.
No.
You guys just went out offshore and just went?
Yeah.
Nice.
We didn't do nothing with the intercoastal. That was the plan. We went offshore. We went outside, and the ocean buoys there are about a mile offshore, and we could see the shoreline and we could see the ocean buoys. We kept that as a guideline, and then when it turned into Cape May, we turned into Cape May to the Texaco over there on the left. And well, I think it's still there. Well, I don't know what it is now. It's probably not Texaco, but I know the Marina, that's still there.
Yeah.
But so we stayed there, and we started making plans, well, now that we can do this, maybe in the summer we're going on summer vacation, we might go to the Chesapeake.
Yeah.
Which actually we did. And it just expanded from there.
What did you guys eat? Bunch of single guys. How old were you?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. I was like
30s?
Yeah, no. 21, 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys just go with straight salmon, sandwich meat, bread, and some canned food, or what did you guys eat? Do you remember?
Mainly, yeah. We took a couple of pizzas with us, Yeah, I think we had 4 pizzas.
And the rest was sandwiches, probably.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's
tuna fish, sardines, deviled ham. Deviled meat, potted meat, deviled ham.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
That size boat, I mean, honestly,
no spam.
That wasn't a delivery, but it was probably, you guys took a delivery approach. Hey, we're going here. We need to get there. Let's get all the food we need, and we're just going. And with that kind of an attitude of just going, and on a smaller boat where you don't have a bunch of refrigeration and stuff like that.
But we had an ice chest. But, we had 4 cases of beer. We had, water.
Yeah, no.
Soda.
I'm not saying you guys live like Spartans, but I'm saying when you're younger, you can live on sandwiches and beverages,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So anyhow, are we going back to my first journey? Is that what?
Yes, let's see your first journey.
I guess my first sailing cruising adventure would mirror a lot of pretty much everybody's, or not everybody's, but a lot of people nowadays, is that I had some knowledge. I was from an inshore place, and there was actually a gal I was dating at the time. Her folks went down to the BVIs all the time. They had some membership in a boat it was a boat club that was in not St. John's, not Tortola. What's the other big American?
St. Thomas?
St. Thomas. It was down in St. Thomas Harbor where you always see the float plane flying in and dodging boats and stuff like that. So we flew down to St. Thomas and we did the little Salt Norman Peter hop and around there. But yeah, so our first night was getting used to the boat and getting on that. And I was like, okay, not a big deal. And
what year were you down there? Do you remember offhand?
Man, look, you might have some white hair, but I'm trying to keep mine dark and not date myself. Anyhow, now I would say this is probably 1996, 97.
Oh, that late, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Much later than your experiences down there. Anyhow, so we went down and flew down in, and that's the crazy thing too. I think most people don't realize is that you'll fly in, and basically us coming from Colorado, we had like a 10 o'clock flight out. You don't think anything of it, kind of half nap, but you wake up and it's like 5 a.m. and they're dropping you off at the boat and you're like, what? Wait, is the boat even ready? It's still dark out. You're trying to get through the gate and get over to the boat and undo the combo, and you get on, and then like 9-10 o'clock, the guy shows up and he's like, let me run you through all the systems and show you. And, I think you and I have forgotten, but for most people on their first like offshore big boat trip, learning how to use a marine head is like a big deal. Because the guy made like this huge deal out of it.
Yeah, because there's all pumps, but now you got the macerators.
Yeah, you just push a button. But yeah. So he went through that like 3 times. And then he went through like the water and how much it was going to be when we went to go fill up. And
right.
I mean, that's the funny thing about the Caribbean. You rent a car in the U.S. and they're like, make sure you bring back the gas tank full. Down there, they don't worry about the gas tank. It's more like, bring back the water tank full.
Well, in the 70s, the charter trade down there, they had a lot of those concrete boats down there.
Oh, yeah, the Ferro Cement.
53-footers. There was a professional company that made 14 or 15 of those 53-footers. And then another big one down there, of course, is Out Islanders.
The Morgan Islands.
Well, that's a big chart because they're tanks.
Yeah.
You can't destroy them.
Yeah, and nowadays it's all the Benettos, and Hunters.
Big,
yeah. So, but anyhow, so we get down there.
Odysseys, Genoas.
Yeah, the Genoas, yeah. So we get down there, we get through the night, we get the briefing in the morning, we're like good to go, and we head out. And it's just an amazing, for somebody that grew up in New Hampshire, rocky coast, lots of trees everywhere, blue, really greenish water. It's more of an aqua emerald green in New England because the water's so cold you don't get that blue color.
Yeah. I've been there, so I know what you're saying.
And then in Colorado, we did have a hint of blue water on the lakes. Like you'd see it in the pictures when you see those snow-capped mountains, but you'd see the blue lake kind of a little bit, but it wasn't like you'd look in it and it was blue like the Caribbean. And you get down there and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then everyone's like, look, do not get distracted. Watch out for boats. We're in like crazy, nobody knows how to boat central, pulling out of St. Thomas. We got out of there. We did the day cruise over to the West End. I won't get into the whole.
Right.
So we got out of there, checked into the BVIs, kind of did the loop, but it was amazing. What's the place with the pirate ship? Pirate ship got wiped out by a hurricane, but they had a pirate ship in this cove, and they have a I'll have to look at a map, but they have a
yeah.
they have a little beach bar there, and I got in there and like, do you want, what do you want? And I'm like, well, what's your signature drink? And they're like, the painkiller. I'm like, well, that sounds good. And it's like got pineapple juice and coconut juice and way too much rum and a couple other things in it. Tastes great, but there's a little like skeleton thing floating on the top, which should have been my first warning sign.
Right.
Yes. Did I listen to that? Not so much. So I had about 3 of those, and they came in a 16-ounce cup, and we'll get into Rum Runners later because that was the signature drink up in Colorado.
Long Island iced tea.
Yeah.
And the islands.
Yeah.
And the islands, it's a whole different drink than what you get here.
Yeah.
Because that stuff is laid from the thick black rums.
Yeah.
And they just keep coming up to the lighter rums, the golden rums that are lighter, and then almost the clear rums, and you got the clear light rum on top. And you ain't never going to see the bottom of that glass, I promise you.
Yeah. So, well, I saw the bottom of 3 painkillers. I thought it was all bad acre with the 3 skeletons in my pocket. And I went out and went, wow, look, everyone's starting to come in for dinner. It's kind of cool to see the action of all these dinghies. And I'm sitting in this lawn chair, big chase lounge, and it's beautiful. It's like 75, 80 degrees out. It's humid. And I'm just laid back. And next thing I know, I wake up and it's kind of dark out. I'm like, I better go find my girlfriend and her family. And so I go rolling in and they're all there like, oh yeah, we saw you took a nap, but it's almost dinner time. We're coming out to get you. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm all good now. We had a great Caribbean lobster dinner. And I will tell you this, that, we have Florida lobster here, Caribbean lobster here, but the true Caribbean lobster is different.
Yes.
Oh, so beautiful. Yeah.
Heck yes.
And so we had that, and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, okay. I'm like, wait, is it because I'm still hammered? And I'm like, nah, I'm not really hammered. I slept it all off. And, and that was like around 9:00, and that place was just coming alive, and it was starting to get rowdy. And I looked at my girlfriend and go, we got to get your dad back. I'm good for staying here or dropping them off and coming back. And she's like, no, we need to get home because this place is going to get crazy. I'm like, okay. So we went back, and I found out later that part of my job of how I got invited was not just because I was dating her, but to I'd be really good to go help her dad back onto the boat after dinner. And, we got him there, no problem. He didn't fall in fact, I got big compliments that trip because he never fell in the water once. So I got him back to the boat fine. We had a great night. We meandered on to another island. But that was really my big first, I guess, trip where there was some navigation involved, bigger boat where you had to worry about docking and plan on where you were going the next day, which to me, I mean, anybody can jump on a boat and look at a place. Look at a place. If you can see the place, you can get there overnight. And that is a great journey, your first night trip. But it's not really as big a deal as sitting down with the maps and planning and looking at the time and doing some, kind of navigation on the map so you have an idea of where you want to be when, and if you don't get there, what plan B is.
Now you made a big trip. You're kind of sort of a seasoned sailor, right?
Yeah.
What was the craziest trip you ever had? The craziest thing you ever done on a sailboat? On a trip. It's got to be a trip.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
if you got a trip.
There's a non-PG-13 story about it. Anyhow, craziest trip I've ever been on. It was 4th of July, and had a couple of cocktails, came down. There's a very famous boat from Pensacola, probably back in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, called Patriot. And they were all partying down there. I ran into them and had a few cocktails with them. So I took my little Bristol off of the slip there, went sailing under a beautiful, beautiful, huge full July moon. It was probably by that time around 1 or 2 in the morning. So it had gone past full and it was starting to go to the west side of the bay.
Right.
And I'm out there and, until you've been out on the water under a full moon, not when it's crazy rock and roll, but when it's like 4 to 8 to 10, where you just see the little wavelets and the moon shimmering on the water. It's just the most amazing thing. And at this time, I was still pretty much a Hobie 16 sailor too. So I tied off the tiller. I had all sails set. We're flying beautiful. We weren't heeled too much, just a little bit. And I'm like, oh yeah, man. And I'm like, you know what? And I walked out to the shrouds and I'm hanging off the shroud, looking down, and my butt's hanging over the water with nothing there but the moonlight down on the water down there. I'm like, this is great. And then the thought popped into my head, didn't one of these things break on your way over from Fairhope when you bought the boat? And probably hanging on to that, not having a harness and all this other stuff, it's probably a really dumb idea. And you're not connected to the boat. And if you fell over right now, that boat would keep sailing without you. And I went, this is a really, really bad thing. I'm getting back. And I just had a great sail after that. But definitely was a lot younger than I am now. Certainly when you're younger, you make some decisions that you wouldn't make with the wisdom or gravitas that you get as you're older. And that was definitely one of them. And that, when I look back at it, that's really probably, I've been my own worst enemy a lot of times. And that was probably the one time that I looked up and went, that was about the stupidest thing I've ever done. I mean, I've never done one of those like, hey, yeah, I'll help you deliver your boat that the engine halfway works on, and we're going out in like some crazy tide where you can get washed ashore or anything. Never done anything that like crazy. I mean, we've all probably been in some like seas that we didn't plan on being in.
Yeah, that's another story.
And it was gnarly and that stuff, but it wasn't something we chose. Whereas that was something I chose.
Trip.
So you brought this up. I know you got a story for me.
I'm going to take you back to the 70s, talking about crazy thing. Okay. So I got this delivery. I'm in New York. This was for Zidell Uniforms, who helped me get my captain's license. I had 62-foot rows in Massachusetts. I had to go to Isla Moher in Mexico, okay, which is right outside of Cancun, actually. You go to Isla Moher, you take the ferry boat to Cancun. Yeah. Okay. So, 3-man crew, right? All right. 3-man crew. My girlfriend and her brother. I mean, she had some experience. She sailed with me quite a bit,
So you at least had one relatively, you had a helms person at least.
Yes. Yeah. I could give her the helm, say, put it in the wind, we're going to put the sails up. Put it in the wind, we're going to put the sails down.
Right.
Yeah, she could handle all of that,
Yeah.
She could trim sails, so, kind of, sort of, I mean, she had an idea. Him, he didn't have a clue, and he was seasick for the first part of the trip, while we were in water that 60-foot roads, 62-foot roads was capable of being in, It wasn't real rough seas, but it was kind of a little rough for a greenhorn, So I think the funniest thing was watching him, and because the original plan was she was going to go and I was going to have an experienced mate with me. But then her brother wanted to go, so we took her brother. So the only experienced sailor on the boat basically is me, But we had a discussion of what to do, and beyond all the stupidity, actually the trip went fairly well. We had, knock on wood, we had a couple of little short squalls, the heat squalls, late afternoon, low altitude, you're in the wind for about an hour or so, bad wind, and then you're good. And so basically God looked out for me in my stupidity, but that's probably the dumbest thing I ever done in my life. Taking a boat like that with two inexperienced people and being the only knowledgeable sailor on the dang boat. But
right. Well, and I think as I've never been on that many deliveries where you roll in and you get the rock stars and you're like, okay, all we got to do, here's where we're going to point it. And they're like, yeah, we got this, Cap. Go down and make sure you plot your course and call the owner. Most of it, and the reality is that there's not that many deliveries out there with fully paid crew. I guess that's the big thing that everyone forgets about on a delivery is that you usually have a captain that knows what they're doing and a few people that are learning.
Well, yeah, that's true. And then another thing, in the later years, what a lot of captains start doing, especially on the sailboats, larger sailboats, they'll have a mate with them,
right? Yep.
A good mate with them, and they'll take a charter. They'll put people, put people on a boat, get paid, so they get paid for delivering the boat, get paid for doing the charter too. So, that's a double dip, But I don't know how that really works out that good, but
okay,
kind of deal.
So along the veins of stupidest, funniest ones, I was going to go back to when you realized you were a captain. I mean, I guess that the sea can always best you. If you ever think you can better the sea, that's your last day on Earth.
Yep.
But when you realize that you can, I guess, handle the sea, you can deal with a lot of what it hands to you, and that you can take a ship or a boat, whatever, to wherever you want to go to. Welcome to the fact that you do know what you're doing and people trust you. It was a Harvest Moon regatta. We went out and I guess apparently somehow we got into oil rigs or whatever and they decided to turn around. And so we're sailing back to Houston and the weather forecast isn't great. And it starts blowing and kind of thundering and lightning. And I'm like, Teddy, look, you've done pretty good steering the compass while we're up here. Can you steer it for 3 or 4 hours, while we go get some sleep? I'm like, sure. And this is the first time I'm driving a 40 some odd foot boat by myself with nobody out there. And I'm just having fun. I can feel the waves. I'm surfing them. And it's at night too. So, obviously a lot can go wrong if you do something screwy and you get sideways, catty corner to the waves.
Yes.
But I'm feeling it. I'm grooving with the waves. I've got my compass. And I'm like, just, oh my gosh, this is great. In fact, actually, on my phone is a picture of that compass at night. And that's my screensaver on my phone because it's just like, look, a compass keeps you grounded, keeps you knowing where you're going and all that stuff. But that night, that was like, kept me going there. And I was like, holy cow. And I had another buddy from Colorado that was out there, had not had as much sailing experience as I had, but I really didn't have that much offshore experience at that point. But when they handed me the wheel to go drive through the stormy Gulf in the middle of the night, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So that's kind of when I got a handle on it. Part of why I threw that in there is the same guy calls me up a couple years later, bought a different boat. I'm like, okay, where is it? He's like, in Puerto Rico. And I'm like, he goes, yeah, no, don't worry about that. We're going to take it from Fajardo to the VI and then come back. And then I'm going to get my crew from Texas and we'll meet you in Key West. Just come down there with some guys and get it back to Pensacola for me. Said, sure, not a problem. Call up my buddies. We got everybody lined up and we go down there. Along the way, this should tell you part of how we're getting set up for, this beautiful old Hodges Brothers built in Maine, Hodges Brothers shipyard.
Nice boat, yeah.
Yeah, John Alden Caravel design boat. Just beautiful, old, solid offshore boat. and he grabs it, and they had some issues with the water tank, and they needed to pull into Dominican Republic, not Cuba, Dominican Republic, because they didn't want to have to like have a problem by Cuba to go get some pipe and get the water tank, get their water system fixed. And of course, one of my friends that's on there is a lawyer. Guess who's the one guy that didn't bring his passport? So we get through that, and they get through that, and then head to Key West, and they made it. But I get a phone call. Hey, yeah, we're getting down there. You know, I hate to ask you, but can you get a 12-pack of beer because we ran out? I'm like, absolutely. Welcome to back to the States.
Not to interrupt, but you mentioned passports. For all our listeners out there, when you get a passport, get the thick book. Don't get the thin book. Get the 27-page book, because you will eventually use it or not.
Right.
But you'll fill that little book up real quick and have to get another one.
Right.
So you're better off getting a thick book whenever you get one. Back to your story.
So I see them, and he tells me, Teddy, it's this robin's egg blue, and he's a vintage 70s kind of guy. So we're sitting there at the end of the dock. I look up, I see this like baby blue thing that needs a pink bow on it as like the stork. And if you've ever been down to the Galleon Marina, you know you get to watch the boats come around the channel marker, turn, and head towards the Galleon. And that's where we were. And we're like, okay.
Yeah, the Budweiser distributor was just a little ways above that.
I know, but yeah, these guys were ready for some Dos Equis. So we handed them all the 6-pack, the 12 packs, and handed them off. And one of the jokes later on was, and Teddy showed up with a football team, and you see the pictures of all of us there on the dock, and there's my crew, and I had a bunch of guys that were like 6'3", 230, all out from Alabama. We had like one guy that was like 5'6", 150 pounds, and he had that long, like straight gray hair. I'm like, yeah, that's Snake. That's our quarterback, because he kind of looked like Kenny Stabler. So we took that boat, and we had to go across the Gulf with it from Key West, which wasn't a big deal. But my buddy
Where'd you all go?
We were bringing it back to here. So from Key West back to here.
Oh, I got you.
So it was funny, though. My buddy goes, the guy that owned it before had a 6-blade prop on it. And I'm not sure if it's the elbow or whatever, but you can't really run it over 1200. You get 4 knots all day long under motor. I'm like, no big deal. We're going to be sailing this thing, maybe doing 6-8 most of the way. And he goes, that's it. And the other thing was that we had some trouble with the head. Like one of the seals is leaking from the bowl. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, but you'll probably be all right if you use a bucket. Just use a bucket, throw it overboard. I'm like,
right.
Okay. So I'm sitting there, and we get out, and we're going, and it's very, very light winds. And this has a pretty small GPS on it. So we head out.
Well, back in the day, what you're saying, you should have a good size GPS by then.
Yeah.
But you didn't have it.
No, it had like the little 8-inch, like basically.
I had a 6-inch.
Yeah, well, maybe it was that bad. But anyhow, so you blow it up. I'm like, okay, I want to head out northwest. Well, I took the first turn northwest out of Key West, which puts you up that little like fishing boat channel.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't see.
You didn't go aground in it?
This isn't like the cruise ship. No, that's how good I was, because I found where there was a bend, and we backed it up and turned around in there. Had to do a 3-point turn and missed the bank with the bow, but we got it, and we got out of there. And then we found the Northwest Channel, and I got out of there. So that should have been my hair-binger that this is not gonna go great. So we get out there, and it's pretty flat, and we're like, okay, we're motoring, everything's good. Have a couple cocktails, start getting on our watch schedule. No big deal. I'm sitting there. It's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And my buddy comes up and he goes, God damn this boat. And I'm like, what? And he like throws something over the side. I'm like, what was that? He goes, that was my shorts, because the toilet just backed up and got sewage all over the floor of my pants. I'm like, okay, let me go look at this. And I'm like, here's the thing, is the seal right at the base of the toilet was leaking. So if you did your business was leaking onto the floor.
Right.
But if you did your business and you flushed it right away, and then you poured a bucket of salt water in there and flushed it some more and poured a little more salt water in there, it all went through. Nothing came back, because it had to go up a hose and down. Yeah. So nothing came back at you, and you were fine, and everything worked out fine. You just did your business, and then you flush it good, and we were all set. My buddy was like, wait, what? You guys didn't have to crap in a bucket? And I'm like, no, man, we figured it out.
Yeah, usually when I come out of Key West out of there, I'll head like I'm going to the Dry Tortugas, because up through the Everglades, you got all that sand comes way out. You got reefs and all of that. So I get out a ways, and then I shoot. I'll make a line to Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that works pretty good. I like that,
So we got out, we got through the first night with only, I guess, a sewage emergency. So the second night, we're sitting off of Tampa, and I look, and we hear, we had a sat phone, so we could call in, and we checked, and, said, no, nothing's serious going on. And we had the VHF, we could hear Tampa weather, and there was some sort of storm coming off into the Gulf, but it was just, little, like you said, afternoon thunderstorm kind of thing. And it's about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, starting to get evening, and the wind comes up a little bit. I'm like, get the sails up. Let's go sailing. We've been motoring in like 2-4 knots of wind the whole time. They get the sails up, and I'm like, finally, I'm going to go to sleep. Now the boat's going to move like it's supposed to. I can just relax. I go lay down. I hear, get Ted. And I'm like, what? What's up? And I'm like, well, we're starting to get more wind. I'm like, is it like white capping out? And like, no. I'm like, if it starts white capping out and you guys think you need to put a reef in, absolutely get me up there. We'll get that done. And I go back to bed, and I wake up, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I get out to go see what's going on. We had about 7 guys with us. So me missing, I don't know. I can't tell you what part of my watch was supposed to be. It was probably midnight or whatever, because I had enough people that I knew that were like, my first mate was on till midnight. And, so I get up there and I go, okay, what happened to the sails? Like, the wind died. I'm like, We ended up 3 more days. So we ended up at 5 days to get back from Key West.
What time of year was that?
That was probably in the fall, I want to say.
Because a lot of times you get the doldrums on the last 2, 3, 4 days.
Yeah, we did. And we...
The only wind you get is, it's got to be early enough to kick up the blow storm. So maybe August, September, you think?
Yeah, we were... No, it was like later in September.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, but yeah, it was, late September, early October-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyhow, but yeah, so we get across, just no real squalls, no nothing. But we had taken so long, and I had planned 3-4 days, maybe 5 days max. We're getting down to like where we're starting to have to get into the canned food, and the smokers on the boat were just itchy. Those guys that had the nicotine addictions, they were like,
crazy.
Yeah. They were like down to 1 pack, and they're like they like split the cigarette.
Clip them.
Split the cigarette for. It was hilarious. It was beautiful to see Pensacola pass and see Pensacola and make that turn. It's like you're home after a long voyage. Yeah. And like the last day I would say was tense, a little bit because, I mean, it's kind of boring when you're just sitting there on a boat. I mean, that's kind of what spoiled me on cruise ships because it's like you're just sitting there with nothing to do. I
don't like it.
I understand the cruise ship
They
model.
don't have cruise ships now.
Hey, you're bored. Go gamble. Yeah.
They got floating cities. I would go on one of them all the tea in China.
But yeah. But anyhow, we turn in the pass and we get in here and it was like the guys that were smokers, dude, like it was scary because as soon as we hit the dock, they were gone. It's like they came back from the store. I swear to God, they had like 2 in each corner.
Like this person, you talk about time. Well, I got the 55 Ocean Alexander Charleston that's going to come down Christmas. How long is it going to take you to come around? Perfect world, 7 days. The world ain't perfect.
No, yeah.
So, I don't, it could take me a month to get around here. I don't know. Depends on weather, depends on that boat, which is scaring me right now with the engines, So, yeah, I don't know. When you're out at sea, or you're doing a crossing, a passage, you're making a law, or you just went down to the islands and you were there for the winter, and now you're looking at your home port. You go, yeah. It's so nice to travel. It's beautiful. It's awesome. It's great. But like Dorothy said, there's no place like home.
You could live in a cardboard box, and when you see that home port, you're just happy to head back to your cardboard box.
Yep.
Because it's just, I think in the back of every mariner's mind, that's actually their destination, their goal is to get, we've gone to these places, now it's time to return home. And it just, I guess to me, it puts that rubber stamp on it. And and there's always that romantic image of what home's going to be like after you've been out at sea for quite a while.
Well, I mean, just to rest up and, kick back with that responsibility. I mean, we're making long deliveries. We're delivering from Fort Lauderdale to Canada to Buffalo and places like that, West Palm Beach to the same areas. I mean, we were making long deliveries of brownies and burgers.
Yeah.
And or to the islands. We've delivered a couple of them to the islands too. So, it's a challenge. It's a responsibility. And when you can get home and just kick back, light up the barbecue and drink a beer, it's a whole different world.
Your only worry is driving the remote.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Speaking about going home, Ted, what do you think? Should we go to dinner, call it a day, or what should we do?
I like dinner. I like drinks. I vote for that. If you guys come see us here at Seegers Marine, you'll see me downstairs with my butt stapled to the chair. I hope you guys have safe travels and you tune in for the next episode.